Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the festive season consumer campaign. This afternoon, we'll be focusing on buy local. What we want to talk about, we want to engage as we step into the festive season. We're getting ready to do
Given you can continue.
a very good afternoon to everybody. I see we still have some attendees that are trying to log in. Welcome to the festive season consumer campaign 2023. Our focus for this afternoon will be the buy local. I want to welcome all the participants. We are going to have an interesting conversation. We want to zoom in on the importance of buying locally produced goods. We want to explore and interrogate what does it mean for our economy to buy locally produced goods. So in the lineup today, we have Proudly South African, and I would like to welcome for the day our panelists that will be joining us for this conversation. We have in our midst, we have the CEO of Proudly South African, Mr. Eustace Mashimje, and he will be talking to us about the importance of buying locally produced goods. What does it mean for South African businesses? What does it mean for South African households with the buying power? Why is it important that when you are going through the aisles, you must look for made in South Africa products? And also, most importantly, what does this mean for businesses in South Africa? Also, the businesses that are members of Proudly South African. Why is this important? What difference does it make? So he will take us through this. We also have in our midst Mr. Mutsunye Motiba, CEO of Productivity South Africa. He will also be talking to us about the role buying South African made goods, the role it plays in the productivity of South African businesses. What does this mean for productivity? And so he's going to explore, and we will explore together. And you are more than welcome to use our Q&A to ask your questions. But before we go through everything, I would like to just remind our panelists to please mute and switch off your videos when you are not talking. So I would like to welcome everybody and say, as we step into the festive season, let us have this conversation that we are hoping that it will therefore inform our decision as we go into the festive spending for this year. But this is not only limited to the festive season. We would like for this to become a culture for all of us as South Africans to be custodians of our own products. Before we go into our program for the day, I would like to say that to all the people that are joining us to participate in this, our participants, please follow the hashtag buy local to create jobs, because this engagement is being streamed live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and other social media platforms. So before any further ado, let me go to Mr. Eustace Mashimde, CEO of Proudly South African. Welcome, sir, and please, can you just take us through this important festive season campaign, Buy Local? Why should we care? Why is it important? And so I'll give it over to you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Program Director. I appreciate the opportunity given to me. Good morning to fellow panelists, to the delegates that have joined us today. I'm going to take you through slides that sort of, give you a sense of who Proudly South African is, what this campaign is about, and what we seek to achieve with this festive season Buy Local campaign. But I think a bit of context is important as to why there's even a need for a Buy Local campaign. If you think of the unemployment numbers as we saw them a couple of weeks ago, we're still sitting with an unemployment rate of 31.9%, 7.8 million of people who should ideally be in jobs still remain unemployed, with 3.2 million discouraged, another 0.7 million people who are not looking at all, and in total, it's looking at about 11.7 million people who remain unemployed if you take into consideration the expanded definition of unemployment. And this is almost 12 million out of a population of 62 million people, based on the census numbers that we saw recently. Most affected remains the youth and Black African women. And so it's important that as we take decisions related to what we buy during this festive season, we think of these numbers and how we can contribute to the cost. Quick case study of why imports or choosing to buy imports negatively affects the economy is the furniture industry. If you think of the furniture industry and the impact it can have on creating jobs as a labor-intensive sector, it really needs our support, and it's one of those sectors that we know stands to benefit from purchasing decisions made during this time of the year. So I thought I'll give you an example through that industry that we're all familiar with. There's 3,500 factories that used to make furniture items in the country, and we are now left with 1,100 furniture manufacturers within a space of 21 year period. And if you look at the number of jobs that the industry itself is able to create, we had 50,000 direct jobs in this industry, dropped to 25,000 jobs. So more than half of that capacity has been lost. And those are direct jobs in furniture manufacturing facilities and plants and factories. But there are indirect jobs that are lost as part of the multiply effect. Economics has taught us that there is what we call the multiply effect, is the impact of an industry on other industries that supply and that are part of the value chain that's supplied with raw materials and components. So to make furniture, apologies, you require raw materials and components, and this can be in the form of metal parts that come from the metal industry, paints, adhesives, and glues that come from the chemical sector, and you require textiles and leather items which are derived from natural fibers, hides, and skins. You require lumber and particle board. So all of these industries are affected every time a purchasing decision is made to buy a furniture item that comes from outside of South Africa. And so that is just an illustration to say there's 25,000 jobs that have been lost directly in the furniture industry, but across other industries that are part of the value chain, many other jobs were lost. And so the next time you go out during this festive season and you want to make a purchasing decision to buy furniture or any item, remember that there are jobs that will be lost in the process. And so with that introduction, let me quickly go into our mandate. As Proudly South African, our role is to ensure that we educate the general public on the importance of buying local, that consumers understand that when they buy an item that comes from China, they're creating jobs in China. We also need to influence buying that happens in the public sector and the private sector. And so it's not unique to South Africa. We have seen this phenomenon of buy local campaigns growing all over the world, especially in developed economies where you even have buy local campaigns for countries, for regions, and even for towns. The best case study is the United States, where they even have legislation where their plan is to ensure that no federal dollar is spent on any imported item, as long as they're able to make that product themselves. And so the trade wars that are well documented between China and the US are purely about them saying they're going to keep out products from China that they're able to make themselves. And so it's important to note the fact that a developed economy like that believes in localization and buying local because it works. It's tried and tested. They've used it to retain jobs in industries like the automotive industry in Detroit, where the bulk of employment opportunities come from that industry. Therefore, it's important to support local industries in the country to do the same for ourselves as a developing economy. We see that the benefits of localization, range from the fact that a company that produces these products will then be able to retain jobs. If there's a company that makes, if you go back to my furniture example, if you have a company that makes chairs, and they employ a certain number of people to make those chairs. As we continue buying from them, they can retain those jobs. And as the need to produce more increases because people are choosing to buy from them, they can then create new job opportunities. And I think that's the most important aspect around localization. But linked to that, especially if you consider the fact that the most affected are young people, they will then acquire skills if they are then accessing job opportunities because you can be a graduate, but practical hands-on skills you might not have. And so we want people to get access to job opportunities so that they can acquire skills. They can use that to improve their living standards and to access other opportunities and to better their lives. And localization contributes to increasing the GDP as well as growing the economy. We even did a study through the Pan-African Investment and Research Services of Dr. Raja Bedian, where we looked at the impact of supporting a labor-intensive industry such as manufacturing, and manufacturing talks to all these other industries that I'm going to talk about today. So whether it's furniture, it's clothing and textile, it's FMCG with all the food and all of the items that we know get bought a lot during this festive season. They are all subsectors of the broader manufacturing industry. And so with just 10% increase in us buying that which is locally made and investing in manufacturing, you will see that there will be a projected GDP contribution of 13% just with a 10% increase in our buying patterns. And you will then see 9% increase in fiscal revenue, which means there's additional tax that is collected from those who will get the job opportunities. The companies, as they make money, will then be in a position to employ more people. There's an estimated number of jobs that will be created. 75,300 will be created just with a 10% increase in localization and investment in manufacturing. And across the whole value chain, you will then have additional jobs, including in mining, which will be able to create about 11,500 new jobs, as well as 10,100 new jobs in agriculture. And in overall, we're looking at about 8% increase in employment creation. And so our focus as Public African, like I said initially, we look at buying that happens in the public sector, buying that happens, that is done by the private sector, being small businesses as well as big businesses and large corporates. We look at educating consumers on the importance of buying local and improving accessibility of locally made products and services. So every time you come across a product that carries the Public African logo, you know that it stands for these 4 key criteria. First one being local content, meaning that the actual product itself is made in South Africa, utilizing raw materials and components sourced in South Africa. In instances where these are not available, where the raw materials and components required to make the product are not available, because there are instances where some of the raw materials we don't have in the country, we allow our members to bring those in as raw materials, and the value addition to those raw materials happens in South Africa, or the conversion of those raw materials and components into the final product happens within the borders of South Africa, so that jobs are created through that value addition and manufacturing process. Companies that affiliate with us have to comply with the quality standards prescribed for those industries. If you look at the Proudly SA logo, as I have it on screen, it's made up of the colors of the flag, telling you instantly that the product is made in South Africa. The tick in the logo instantly tells you that the product is of a high quality nature and complies with the standards prescribed for the industry in which the product or the service is being rendered, because we look at both products and services. And in the instance of services, we want those who render services to render services utilizing consumables, equipment, machinery, etc., that they source in South Africa, so that they also contribute to the creation of jobs in the country. And companies that affiliate with us have to help us preserve the environment and reduce the carbon footprint, but also treat our workers fairly, according to the labor legislation of the country. And so our focus is on access to markets, but apologies. Today, I'm going to focus on what we have started doing insofar as creating an opportunity through the festive season campaign together with our partners. I mean, we have e-commerce partners that are going to be rolling out specials and promotions where we have been able to go and negotiate for members of Proudly South African as an access to market benefit for them being affiliated with us. They're able to list on these platforms and we carry the cost. We've negotiated for reduced listing fees and negotiated zero listing fees in some instances for them to be able to list their products on there and sell. And during this festive season, we'll be driving traffic to these platforms. We know that people still buy from the comfort of their homes or from their offices, and online stores have really become big. When the numbers came out at the end of the Black Friday week, it was clear that the majority of spending that happened during that Black Friday week was on online platforms. More sales generated on online platforms during the Black Friday week than in physical retail stores. And so it's important that when we roll out a campaign like this, we partner with e-commerce platforms. And those are the ones I've put on screen that we partner with, that we'll be partnering with. So back to the conversation that I've given you context. Let's talk about what we are doing as part of the festive season campaign, as part of the call to get South Africans to buy local. We've packaged a festive season campaign like we do on an annual basis, and because there is a big reliance on government to play its part through the GTIC to contribute resources, this is really a campaign that seeks to ensure that we help the department achieve their goal of industrialization by driving our mandate of getting South Africans to really look at where their money goes during this festive season period. And we're going to have, like I said, we started with Black Friday, where we started driving traffic to all of those e-commerce platforms that I spoke about. And there were specials. Our members who sell high quality locally made products really made sure that there were specials that consumers could take advantage of. And we move from Black Friday into the festive season campaign, which is where we are now, and we're going to conclude this with back to school. So as you end off the festive season campaign, you then focus on the fact that there is a lot of buying that happens beyond the festive season, where parents are preparing to take their kids back to school, and so there's quite a bit of spend that happens during that time, and we have to take advantage of that as well. And so, like I said, we started with Black Friday. It's very important in that there's a lot of spending that happens during that time. In 2022, the research tells us that 53% of consumers spend their money on clothing, shoes, and accessories, and some purchasing electronic and toys. And so we've made sure that we take advantage of that period and that spending that happens during that time. Festive season, very important. So during this period up until towards the end of December, we then focus on getting consumers as they look for gifts, as they look for food items and other items that they would have budgeted for. Some people get bonuses during this time of the year. Some people really do save up. Then there's stock files where people save up as groups. We're taking really big advantage of all of that spending. And we've come up with programs to ensure that people buy local during this period. Back to school, quite important. Like I said, it's a time for shopping and preparation for kids to go back to school. And so a lot of money is spent on there. So our campaign is known as Living Lekker Locally, and we launched this about 3 years ago. And really, the thinking behind Living Lekker Locally is about saying to consumers, you can really go through every single aspect of your life on locally made products. And that's what we want to illustrate and want to ask consumers to do during this festive season. And we're targeting consumers, we're targeting stockfile groups, the hospitality industry, and then schools as part of the next part of the campaign. We're going to look at items like furniture and CTFL. Like I said, food is going to be important. There's a lot of food lekker food that is made in South Africa that we want consumers to choose and buy. But the most important aspect of it is that it's a celebration of that which we make ourselves for ourselves, and more than anything, the quality is not questionable. And most importantly, jobs will be created. We all know someone is unemployed. And that's what we're trying to achieve with this campaign, is to ensure that post the festive season period, we will then have, some of the benefits accruing to some of the companies that are based in the country. And they can then, employ people. So we want people to get ready for the festive season. We wanted them to get ready through taking advantage of Black Friday specials and through our Cyber Monday e-commerce promotion that we rolled out. There are special days that are important for festive season, and those are some of the days, the 16th, 24th. In fact, the other day that the president gave us is the 15th of December. So all of those important days where we know that people prepare for these days, people spend a lot of money for those days. And so we're going to intensify the campaign around some of those days to ensure that as people go and prepare their lunches, etc., for those days, they really look out for that which is locally made. And so we're asking South Africans to start by looking at the meal of the day. And we've asked them to check what is on their plate. What is on your plate? We're going to run a campaign that will start getting South Africans to think about where their meals, where the ingredients for their meals will be coming from. And we have a lot of those that are made in South Africa. There are even master plans that talk to the poultry industry, to the sugar industry, where capacity is available in the country, and those industries really need us to support them. So what's on your table? That's the campaign, as you see on there. So it's beverages, it's all the food products. And it even goes to the extent of saying, even where you're going to buy crockery and cutlery, to ensure that you can host a decent and proper lunch for your Christmas and for all the other special days that I flagged, that all of those are sourced in South Africa. We are going to run a competition focused on getting consumers to tell us what's on their table. And the products will be sector specific, and they will talk to the industries that we are supporting from a master plan perspective. As you know, the DTIC has rolled out sectoral master plans in the furniture industry, the clothing and textile industry, the poultry industry, the sugar industry. So we're going to have sector specific prices that support the buying of products that come from those industries. We have another competition. This is my favorite, January. So we're trying to help you beat the January blues. There's a phenomenon in this country where after the 1st of January has passed, we're all talking about how we're going to eat cabbage because we can't afford meat and other products. So we're helping people beat the January blues. We're running a competition where they can win up to 3,000 rands. It's quite an interesting competition in that all you need to do is to buy cabbage like you were going to buy anyway, cook it in the best way you think you can, and the winning entries will then be based on, who submitted the best dish, best cabbage dish. So you give us the ingredients, we look at what ingredients you use to prepare the best cabbage, and then you win 3,000 rands to help you beat the January blues. So we are hoping that South Africans, think about local ingredients, locally made and sourced ingredients that they can utilize to make cabbage. And on the back of that, they can win prizes up to 3,000 rands. The winners will get, and we will achieve our objective of making sure that cabbage falls. So cabbage must fall during this festive season. We know that people save up for the festive season. The stokvels that are spending billions of rands. In fact, there's research that tells us that stokvels generate up to 44 billion rands per annum. And a lot of these are people who save up with the objective of making sure that during this time of the year, they go out, they shop in bulk, and they distribute the groceries such that they last not only for the festive season, but for most of them is to carry them throughout the year as they build up towards the next festive season. And so what we're saying to them is buy local as a stokvel, and I'm going to run this competition on Facebook where they can post the entries, and the entries will show us what locally made products they bought as a stock file. They will send us receipts, post the pictures, post the receipts, use the hashtag, and on the back of that, they can win up to 10,000 rands per stock file. A few prizes will be given to a few stock files, and these will ensure that we get stock files who are buying in bulk to really actively find the locally made products when buying for the festive season. We're going to run a competition where we want consumers to show their local shopping sprees, where they're buying locally made products, pushing their trolleys and filling those trolleys up with locally made products. It's known that husbands struggle the most when it comes to buying gifts for their significant others and for their kids. And so there's a guide that we're going to publish, Husband's Guide to Christmas Shopping. And we're going to utilize that guide to flag and showcase high quality locally made products across many industries, and that talk to the kind of gifts that can be bought. We'll also point consumers to who the suppliers are, where you can find them, and that way knowing that we're driving traffic intentionally towards locally made products. And back to school, like I said, very important. We want a child like that you see on screen to be kitted in locally made uniform, have their stationery and backpack and everything else, lunch boxes and everything else that they require for the year to be made in South Africa. We're going to roll out the campaign in 10 different malls. We're going to focus on high traffic malls where we know that over and above having high traffic, it's malls where the consumers are in a position to can see our messages as they walk into the malls. Our messages that says to them, buy local this festive season, and they can walk into the different stores that they're buying from and choose locally made products because they can afford to. We are going to ensure that our messages are placed strategically alongside retailers that we work with, so that consumers know that they can instantly walk into those stores and find high quality locally made products, and in the process help contribute to the creation of jobs. There's a huge digital marketing presence that is going to be part of this campaign, and some of the messages include what you see on there, where we are going to ask South Africans to just hold hands with us and engage insofar as what they are buying this time of the year, including what is on their table for the festive season, what is in their wardrobe for the festive season. If you're buying a car, buy a locally made car. If you're buying furniture, buy locally made furniture. We're going to engage the media. We have what we call the Last Supper with the media. So it's our last media engagement for the year. And we hope that through engagement with the media, they will be able to go back and as influencers, as those who have the ability to capture the attention of those who engage with whatever content they put out there, will be able to start asking consumers to look at where the products they're consuming for this financial year are coming from, including the hospitality industry, which needs our support. The hospitality industry has the ability to create a lot of jobs. And so we want the South African hospitality and tourism sector to really be supported during this festive season. We have face-to-face interactions with consumers from the 1st, which is today, until Sunday. We've put together a market, a festive season market made up of locally made products at the First in Rosebank. You can visit there. Apologies, starting at 10 o'clock this morning until 6, even tomorrow between 10 and 6, and on Sunday between 10 and 4 at the First. Go find high quality locally made products. Those husbands that I was talking about who don't know what to buy, there are significant others. You can go there and really find products that you can put on your table for this festive season. You can put in your wardrobe, you can gift to your family and to your loved ones. Like I said, these are some of the e-commerce partners that we're partnering with for this for this festive season. And these are some of the key timelines. The campaign started on the 17th of November with Black Friday, which ended on the 24th. On the 20th of November to the 27th, we focused on Cyber Monday, the Living Lekker Locally festive season campaign, which is basically saying to consumers, these are the products you can live off during this festive season. Runs from the 28th and will end on the 31st of December. And on the 26th of December, we're going to start rolling out a back to school campaign, which will run up until the 25th of January across all of those platforms, utilizing traditional media, malls, like I said, social media campaigns and digital marketing, very critical. And then from an above the line, we're going to focus on
There's a voice.
As I conclude, I want to quickly introduce you to a campaign that we have conceptualized. We started rolling this out halfway through the year, around June, July. We launched this. Some of you might have seen it, but I think it's proper to conclude my remarks today through messages from the young people who we need to pass an economy down to in the future. And so what kind of economy we're going to pass on to them? You've been hearing our voices, proudly South African, for many years, where we've been saying to you, buy local, but maybe it's time for consumers to hear from the beneficiaries that are meant to inherit the economy from us. What kind of economy are we going to pass on to them? Is it a jobless economy? Is it an economy without manufacturing or any industrialization, because we will have closed down and lost all the capacity we had because we choose to buy imports, even when there are options that are made in South Africa that we can afford to choose. So let me play the campaign to give you a good sense of what kind of messages we're putting out, and I will then conclude, Program Director.
There's a voice that is calling, loudly calling, day by day, the voice of the future.
When I started my business, all I wanted was to create jobs and a legacy for the next generation, because I see opportunity when others see impossibility.
It all started with a thought and then a seed in the garden, which grew into my very own farm that feeds the whole nation daily.
Cotton, silk, and a little bit of treasure, I create masterpieces that give South Africans an identity, comfort, and confidence, because when you look good, you feel good.
From the factory workers to the warehouse and then over the seas, I want to show the world what proudly South African looks like. It all started with just some ink on paper and inspiration to bring people together. With my furniture, I now help create spaces that are beautiful, comfortable, and authentic to human light and connection.
I've always been driven by curiosity. It fueled my dreams to create automobiles that accelerate our nation into greater possibilities and the beauty of the unknown.
I was born into a rainbow nation. My life has been full of colors and mixed flavors. And when I started my bakery, I wanted to share that joy with the world and with South Africans in particular.
All I ever dreamt of was to be a bird and fly high. And now I have the wings to help others fulfill their dreams of flying high too.
But it can only be a dream until you make it a reality. All they need is your faith, your trust, your loyalty, your appreciation.
And most importantly,
Your support.
because supporting local businesses
Helps create jobs
And secures our future.
South Africa, their future is in your hands. So what are you going to do about it? Be proudly South African. Buy local to create jobs.
And in line with the theme for this webinar today, we're focusing on buying local for this festive season. There's the call to action from the kids. Be proudly South African, buy local to create jobs. If you want to work with us, if you want to support these campaigns, if you want information on how to become a member that can also participate in these various programs, where we can then drive traffic towards your retail store, towards your manufacturing plant, etc. Contact us info@proudlysa.co.za. Send us an email. We will be in touch with you. Or visit our website, proudlysa.co.za, or our various social media pages. Thank you very much, Program Director. I appreciate the opportunity given to me this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Mashimbye. Oh my goodness. It seems like all roads lead to proudly South African this festive season. That sounds amazing. It seems like you have a party pack full of activities and benefits for all businesses and entrepreneurs and everyone at large. You've heard for yourself. So please follow Proudly South African on all their social media platforms. And remember, today's hashtag is hashtag buy local to create jobs. Thank you so much for that. That is really, truly amazing. What we will request is that we share all of this content on our platforms as well, just to spread the word. Thank you so much. That was so much informative. Right now, I think I will take us through, we're going to move right through the next panelist on our program for the day. So without further ado, I want to welcome Mr. Mutiba, excuse me. He is the CEO of Productivity South Africa. So we want to understand, how do we improve the productivity and competitiveness of South Africans? How can South Africans acquire local skills development? And in particular, what does buying local, how does it impact, or what impact does it have on improving business productivity? So Mr. Mutiba is going to take us through. Welcome aboard, sir. Please take the floor. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Bongiwe, and greetings to Ndate Mashimbe. It's always a pleasure to be a part of the Proudly South African initiatives for a number of reasons. I think Mr. Mashimbe has taken us through what South Africans are capable of doing from a productivity and manufacturing side of things by showcasing those companies that are proudly South African. I'm going to take this discussion further by reflecting on what actually is happening on the coal phase to ensure that South African manufacturers are world class. If you go to slide number 3, I'm simply giving you a reflection of who Productivity South Africa is, so that we are able to make that distinction between Proudly South African and Productivity SA. That we are an entity of the Department of Employment and Labor. And at the heart of our mandate is to fulfill an economic responsibility of government, which is to promote employment growth and productivity, thereby contributing to South Africa's socio-economic development and competitiveness. Participants in the webinar would understand that since 2019, the Department of Employment and Labor has been conferred the mandate to coordinate all employment creation activities in the country, whereby they were to ensure that efforts to create jobs and reduce unemployment are coordinated across government, and Productivity South Africa is at the center of this mandate. As I indicated, that our focus is on improving economic efficiency and productivity, creation of decent employment, and promoting social dialogue and workplace democratization and collaboration. And I want to emphasize the issue of dialogue and democratization is very critical in any space where production or manufacturing is taking place, because it is those workers as well as management who actually come up with what should South Africans consume. In the next slide, I'm just giving a reflection of our vision. I will not go through vision, mission, but I will emphasize the issue that as an entity, We unlock South Africa's productivity and potential by addressing productivity and competitiveness holistically at all levels. And the levels are at a country level or macro level, at industry level or sector level, meso level, or at enterprise level or micro level. Now, Mr. Mashimbi spoke about sector master plans. It is within this context when we talk about addressing productivity and competitiveness holistically that our enterprise development and support programs are targeted at also ensuring that those identified sectors wherein we have sector master plans are being supported to be competitive and sustainable. The benefit of companies being competitive and sustainable is that they create value. If you go to the next slide, you then start seeing what our value proposition is about, that we assist enterprises as they emerge, when they are sustainable, as well as when they go through economic distress and are considering retrenching workers. Emphasis is on improving the competitiveness and sustainability of enterprises throughout the business life cycle, as I indicated in that slide number 5. I will not dwell much on slide number 6 and 7, just to highlight a few things. That when you increase demand, when you buy local, you have the benefit of stimulating growth for local industries, increasing the demand for skills, as well as digital technologies and innovation and use of local resources intelligently. So it means when you buy local goods and services, the spin-offs are many. Also, local manufacturing makes it easier to see the results or the fruits of your employees' labor. The money they earn in manufacturing pours into local industries like retail and real estate and improves schools in the districts. So when you empower your workers through improved income and benefits, this goes back to the communities where they come from. When you buy local, it stays local. Income is kept within a local area, creating wealth, which when we were growing in the 76 and so, when we were talking about consciousness of Black people in this country, we used to talk about stretching the rand. And I believe that buying local, it's also about stretching the rand and preventing structural unemployment from deindustrialization. Surely, if anyone amongst us has not learned of the 2009 financial crisis and recently the COVID-19 pandemic, we shall not awaken. The global economic crisis or pandemic and other supply chain disruptions can cripple companies that do not engage with the benefits of local manufacturing. When we had the lockdown and the economy was opening, but we could not access global value chains, companies that did not invest in capability to manufacture in the country and also empower their employees with skills and relied more on imports. They found it very difficult to emerge from the pandemic. In the next slides, I'm giving a reflection of, you can move to slide number 8. The challenges that we're facing in the labor market. Two critical ones that I want to highlight, that the competitiveness of our economy and its enterprises, in particular industrial SMMEs, or those operating in the manufacturing sector, is low. And that also goes with the productivity. The productivity of those industrial sector SMMEs is also low. And this is a simple thing, that productivity is a driver of long-term competitiveness and sustainable growth. Therefore, if your productivity is low, the consequences are low competitiveness, low growth, and low growth result in the challenges that we talk about: unemployment, poverty, and inequality. Further to these challenges, in the next slide, are issues that I believe, if we really put our heads together, we can resolve this through increased productivity growth. Two things I want to highlight in this slide. The first one is South Africa is characterized by a dual economy, with most small and medium-sized enterprises operating in the informal economy, over 65% of those. The low productivity, particularly of the industrial SMMEs, which render them uncompetitive and unsustainable, therefore unable to generate sustainable value, that is long-term capacity to remain profitable, preserve and create fulfilling jobs, and minimizing the environmental impact of their activities. This can be resolved if we pull our heads together. The slowdown in productivity growth in that it is the main source of lasting per capita income growth, which in turn is the primary driver of productivity reduction. So I'm just putting forth these few issues that if we really do something about enhancing the productivity and capability of our enterprises, particularly the small and medium-sized enterprises, we stand a better chance of seeing this economy improving. I want to venture in the next slide just to give you an idea of what are those things that we can do to resolve these challenges. If you can go to slide number 11. Here lies our solution. We advance the argument that as a productive nation, we must address both labor productivity and total factor productivity. But we should not be stuck in the definitions. I'm giving 3 levels of how we should view productivity. At a technical level, you can see it's the ratio of output over input. At an efficiency level, it's using more with less, but also the fact that productivity is also a wider social concept. It is about a mindset that continuously aspires to better ways of accomplishing tasks and conducting business, doing what we do better than I did yesterday and even better tomorrow, and continuous improvement, which is referred to as Kaizen in Japanese. From slides 17 to 24, I'm sharing with you real things that we should do to enhance the competitiveness and sustainability of the economy and that of the industrial SMMEs. And I want to argue that without a driving force, the battle is lost. So, what are the benefits of driving force? These include laser sharp clarity of vision and direction. And that is why in our programs, one of the key things we speak about is workplace collaboration and goal alignment, so that everybody within the company, starting from the chief executive up to the last person on the floor, should understand the direction in which the company is going. Buy in and a support of all your people to the future strategy, clarity of where to allocate scarce resources, ability to control the time and place of battle, communication, communication, communication. Going further in terms of enhancing the competitiveness in the next slide, I'm just giving an indication of, if you really want to simplify this productivity thing, and I call it Productivity 101. On the one side is the conversion of inputs to outputs. And that's why we have inputs and conversion process and outputs. But at the heart of it, it's improved resource utilization and improve efficiency. In the next slide, if you have in your organization that winded distance from order to invoice, you're going to fail. Too many things that happen between order and invoice cause companies to fail. That is why we say a simple philosophy is straighten this line, shorten it, and strengthen it through your skills interventions, process enhancement, and so on. And in the next slide, I'm sharing with you one of the tools that we use in this world that we operate called 5S: straighten, shine, standardize, and sort. In the next slide, I'm sharing with you something that is very critical to any organization. There's this thing that is called waste. So I've given you on one side the 7 forms of waste. In the next slide, I'm sharing with you the 8 forms of waste as learned from Lean Six Sigma. And in the next slide, I'm just giving you an indication of if you really want to remember these things. You can use what we call CONWIP or team woods. These are the things that companies that are successful and are world-class are doing. And if we talk about our companies being proudly South African, these are the tools at our disposal that we have to use. And in conclusion, I want to indicate we have the capability to make it in South Africa, because every October, just in October now, we had the annual National Productivity Awards, and we were also showcasing companies that went through our programs that are capable of doing these things that will make them capable of delivering quality products at the least cost and on time. Having said the following, having said the above, my parting shot is South Africa, it is possible. Let's put hands on deck to turn the economy around. And that should be predicated on a productivity agenda. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Motiva. Wow, that was amazing. Thank you. We thank you for that presentation. Everybody, you've heard for yourself. We heard from proudly South African CEO, Mr. Mashimbye, who went into detail in terms of their efforts around the Buy Local campaign. And everything that he touched on, it falls squarely on job creation. And right now, we just heard from Mr. Motiva. And he made a call to work together to address productivity, because productivity will then in turn improve job creation and grow the economy of this country. With all of that said, we are going to go into our Q&A, our question and answer session. So everyone and anybody who's got questions for our panelists, please make use of your Q&A box to ask your questions, and they are here to answer your questions. At the moment, we do have a question. Thank you again, once again, for those presentations. This was truly informative. I think I will go straight into the first question that we have. And the question comes from Lethabo Pahlane. And Lethabo says, are there any plans in motion to expand intra-African trade on a manufacturing and e-commerce level? How are we going to make sure that locally produced goods cannot be counterfeited? And I think perhaps we'll give this one to CEO from Proudly South African, Mr. Yusuf Mashimbye. Go ahead, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Bongiwe. Yeah, so there's definitely a plan to take South African products into the African market. I think what the Africa free trade area or free trade agreement has done it has given us an opportunity to take South African made products into the other markets where some of those tariffs that would have been applicable before will not necessarily be applicable. So those products can go and compete in those markets. And so despite the fact that Proudly South African's mandate is domestic focused, so we are meant really to galvanize the buying of locally made products within the borders of South Africa. But this presents an opportunity that cannot be passed up. And so we have started and embarked on a journey, and supported by the DTIC, I must say so, to build an e-commerce platform that will house South African products. So if you think of anyone who wants to buy a product in China, they know that they go to Alibaba and they can find products made in China. And so equally, we're creating a platform that will enable anyone sitting anywhere in the world to be able to say, I want to buy a South African product, where can I go? And they will go onto this e-commerce platform housed by Proudly South African. And I mean, the costs really to develop that have been contributed by government through the GTIC. So that work has been, has started. We've commenced with that work. We're almost at a stage where we are ready to test, get different sign-offs from different levels of who we report to, and then we will go live. So with absolute certainty, at the beginning of 2024, during that first quarter of 2024, we will go live with an online platform, an e-commerce platform, initially with B2C capability for consumers sitting anywhere on the continent and anywhere in the country who want to buy locally made products to be able to do so. We're working on ensuring that this can then, also cater for markets outside of the continent, such that anyone who's an expert, etc., or misses home and wants to buy a locally made product can know that when they go there, they can buy those products. And so I think with those two responses, I probably have adequately covered the question from the delegate. So thank you very much, Bongiwe.
Yes, you have. Thank you so much for that. So can we then say that anyone who's interested to follow up on this, they can then follow you on your website to keep up to date with the developments and know exactly when they can be able to access?
So what we'll do is we're definitely going to have a launch of the platform itself during the first quarter of the next calendar year. And so on all our social media pages, on our website, we're going to put those messages up as soon as we're ready, because we really have to drive traffic. People need to know where to go, to access the platform. We are working on even developing an app. And so we have to highly publicize that app in order to make sure that people can download it, both Android and Apple or Mac or iOS as they call it, and then so ensure that we make it easy for consumers to have the ability to buy from the comfort of their homes products that are made in South Africa, including those who want to list their products on there. In my presentation, I highlighted the criteria for becoming a member. And the one slide that I intentionally skipped was the one around fees, because today the focus is really about getting consumers to buy locally made products. But the question might come up then as to how much it costs. And I'll just touch on the first one. If your turnover as a manufacturer is less than 5 million rands, all you need to pay is 500 rands per annum. And so you can then become a member, and your products can live on that platform at no additional cost. Members of Proudly South African will be able to list their products on there at no cost. And the reason why we are limiting it to members of Proudly South African is because we can then say with absolute certainty to any consumer going on that platform that the product you're about to buy is made in South Africa and is of a high quality product and can be trusted. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, the CEO. We do have some more questions on our Q&A. I'll just go right ahead. There is a question for Mr. Motiba. Anonymous here wants to know, as a small business owner, how do they get onto the programs of National Productivity SA? Perhaps you'll come through here and just give them a quick response to that, and then we can go through other questions. We do have one or two more questions, so maybe I'll just give it over to you to take that one on. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Let me maybe add on the question raised by Letabo that Productivity South Africa has also a program called Export Competitiveness Enhancement Program. We piloted that in KZN 2 years ago. We're now implementing it in Gauteng, and we're looking at implementing that in Limpopo next year. The critical thing is precisely that we are able to empower South African companies to participate in the AFCTA. Added to that, we also have what is called the Africa Kaizen Initiative, whereby companies also participate on the South African companies participate in the Africa Kaizen Awards so that they can be showcased in the continent within the context of that. For accessing our programs, Productivity South Africa has got 3 offices, one in Gauteng, which serves Gauteng, Limpopo, and the Northwest. The second is in the Western Cape, which serves the Western Cape, Free State, and Northern Cape. And the third is in Durban, servicing KZN, Eastern Cape, and Mpumalanga. I encourage people who want to access our programs to go to our website, Productivity SA. You'll find a menu of what we offer, as well as the contacts of the relevant people in the regions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Motiba. Let me look at our questions again. We do have one more there. I'll just hold on to you a little bit. Okay, we do have, again, Anonymous wants to know, is there a catalog of Proudly SA products that one can check for registered Proudly South African products and services? That is our question. I'll give it over to you, Mr. Mashimje.
My network dropped a bit there, Bongiwe.
No problem.
Okay. The question?
I'll read the question again for you.
Okay.
I think you did in your presentation allude to how to access, but we will answer this question. Anonymous is asking, is there a catalog of Proudly South African products that one can check, registered Proudly South African products and services? So I think we can just perhaps answer them directly again. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we can. So there are various ways. The easiest one is to go onto our website. If you go into our website, there's a membership tab. If you go to the membership tab, you can go through our database of members. You can search based on sector and subsector and find suppliers with click-throughs to their different websites. In some instances, images of the products and the contact details of how you can contact the product. So we have already started working on ways in which you can easily access locally made products even before we launch our e-commerce store. So for now, that is the easiest way. Just go to proudlysa.co.za and do a search on our website. It will give you a list of companies together with their products that you can buy. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much to all our participants. Thank you, a million thank yous to also our panelists for this engagement today. And we would like to urge everyone to buy local at this time. And we want to appreciate all the efforts in this buy local campaign that you have. It's creative, it's informative, and it's also interactive. And I think everybody who does actually play a role will have a lot of fun. So I would urge all of the participants to share the information, and please feel free to contact Proudly South African on all their social media platforms and follow them there, including their website. We are also, as the DTIC, the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, we are a lifetime partner. We are in a lifetime partnership with Proudly South African. So we would also be more than happy to forward all of the content that has been shared in this engagement today in our platforms, our social media platforms, and all our internal platforms, so as to spread the word. Before I let you all go, I have one more. I have one more question that came through an email, and that question actually is one of the questions that we did think that it would be important for our panelists, just to highlight who should drive the buy local initiative, government or business. And we know that it is both, but we just want you to give us emphasis on what is the importance of government and business working together. I think this would be a strong ending point for this conversation, for you to just tell us the importance of government and business working together in this initiative. I think I'll start with you, Mr. Mashimbia, and then Mr. Motiba, you'll come right after that. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Program Director. So for government, it's important that we continue to become the most industrialized economy in the country, because then it will simply on the continent, because it will simply mean we have more industries that have the ability to absorb people into jobs. We have more people then paying taxes over to SARS. We have more entities that are doing well, and so the more companies do well, the higher the tax is payable by them becomes. And so we have more then at the disposal of government that is available for them to render much needed services such as healthcare, security, education, safety and security, and all of those. And so it's critical that government continues to create an environment that enables entrepreneurs, both small businesses and big businesses, to thrive, because the spin-off really is a thriving economy means there's more at their disposal for them to be able to render much needed services. For the private sector, the critical thing is that the private sector renders some sort of service or some sort of product. In fact, one of the questions asked earlier on was, does the work we do cover services? Yes, it does cover services. But the private sector also relies on us. It does not matter which sector you are and at which point in the value chain you play. It relies on us as their customers, ultimately, in one way or another, being able to afford the products or services that they're taking to the market. And so the more people fall out of jobs, the higher the levels of unemployment in the country, means there's less people who can afford those products and services that the private sector is taking out into the market. And so the private sector has an important role to play. They need to ensure that through their individual procurement spends, the individual entity procurement spends, whether at a corporate level or at a small business level, that they look at where their products are coming from. Because by supporting those businesses that they're buying from, by buying their raw materials and components and consumables and everything else they require for their businesses locally, they're ensuring that those people who supply those products, who are employed in those companies, can remain in jobs. And ultimately, those can be the customers that can then afford the products and services that they're taking to the market. So all of us have a role to play. As much as the focus today has really been about buying for the festive season, because we are one of those economies where during this time we shut down. But there is a role to be played outside of consumers that we focused on today by broader society, including both the public sector and the private sector. And so all of us have a role to play. Thank you, Bongiwe.
Thank you, Mr. Mashimbia. Mr. Motunye Motiba, please come through. As we close, we want to hear from you.
Bongiwe, I echo the sentiment as reflected by Mtate Mashimbia. Collectively, both business, labor, and government, we have a duty to create an enabling environment for entrepreneurship and sustainable enterprises. Because once enterprises are sustainable, they're able to create value. The value we talk about here, it's entrepreneurs will create wealth for themselves. Businesses, as they grow, they will improve wages and working conditions of workers. Also, when they grow, they create the much needed jobs that we really require as this economy. And the benefits flows to society as well. You have an improved living standard in the economy. Therefore, and that is why when I started, I said, proudly South African is on the side whereby we say, this is what South African companies can do and buy from them. On the other side, Productivity South Africa, it's an input into that process where we say, enhance the capability of these companies to create value. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Motiba. There you have it, everybody. You've heard the messages, you've heard the call. So as we step into our festive season, let us be proudly South African and let us buy local. Thank you for joining us today. I am sure this conversation will not end here, so be on the lookout for further interactions in the future. To everybody that has joined us and participated, thank you for attending and have a good weekend. And buy local and be proudly South African. Thank you.
Thank you, and bye to everyone.
Thank you, Bongiwe. Thank you, Mr. Motiba.